Good afternoon. We'd like to welcome everyone to today's City Board of Directors agenda meeting to set the agenda for November the 19th, 2019 at 6 o'clock p.m. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll? Oh, this is the agenda meeting. No need to call the roll. Sorry about that. Still get my bearings together. Well, now, any questions as it relates to the consent agenda for items 1 through 13? Director Wright?
Resolution 1, Mayor. Can I get a presentation on that?
Yes. Jamie? Director Collins, apologize.
Director Wright, what this is this setting a date for the public hearing for the abandonment of the right-of-way. Allie, if you bring up, I don't know if it's in the, it's just setting the date. This is the, there's a, it's right on the northeast corner of Embassy Suites Drive and Canis Road. Yes, the intersection that we're redoing. We have 2 tracts of land the city now owns. Okay. And one is right at the corner, and one is where the hair salon was on that tract of land. And there was a right-of-way that comes straight down and hit Canis. Well, right now, we are the property owners of both sides, and so we're seeking to abandon that right-of-way. And that's what that public hearing is for, to abandon that. And so all that will be, no easements, no right-of-way through there. It'll just be a tract of land.
Is this the parcel that we had the hair salon? You said something about the hair salon. That's the part you purchased.
That's part of that. That one was purchased, and the other one was purchased too. That northeast corner, including, there's 2 tracts of land.
So there shouldn't be any opposition or anything like that?
We didn't, shouldn't have any. But those are the 2 tracts of land that we're talking about.
Okay. Okay, I'll see if I get any calls.
All right, seeing no other questions, any questions for items 14 through 18? Seeing none, any questions for 19 through 24? Separate items. Director Wright, do you have?
Back up here on resolution number 5, Mayor, it said Gamble Road, and it listed them as both as Ward 5 and Ward 7. Is my understanding, Jamie, Mr. Collins, that part of this is in Ward 6? Is that correct? Or is that John?
That's John Honeywell.
Okay, you can come up, Mr. Gamble Road is off Canis, right?
Yes, ma'am. It's the part that's north off of Canis, I believe. So that would be Ward 5 if it's the particular section we're talking about. But I can confirm that for you.
Okay.
Make sure.
But, okay. I just wanted to make sure I knew a portion of it was, I knew I stopped.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
I'll bet this is a portion that's further up from Canis on Gamble. So I'd have to, that's where that all gets sort of mixed together, so I need to look at it and make sure.
So if anybody upset, they can call Lance.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, all right.
Thank you, Mr. Honeywell. Thank you, Director Wright. Seeing no other questions from 19 through 24, we'll now call this agenda meeting adjourned. We'll now convene our policy discussion meeting. Before we start our policy discussion meeting, I do want to highlight item, probably should have done before we adjourned, but highlight item number 23 in the agenda meeting, where it does state our budget ordinance that will be voted on November the 19th. I've been made aware that there are a few board members that will be out of town on the 19th to attend the National Leagues of City Summit meeting. What we will do is, one, continue to have, you guys have all the information on the budget and received information last week based on what you requested. So what we will do is still for those board members that will be in attendance on November the 19th, continue to go over the budget, and then we will recess the meeting on the 19th and then vote on the budget on November the 26th. So that way everyone has the ability to be there in an attendance and also additional time to go over the budget between now and November the 26th. So that way everyone's schedules are accommodated. And if you have any questions, please feel free to direct questions to myself, our Chief Financial Officer, Sarah Linehan, or our Chief Administrative Officer, Bruce Moore. Thank you. Now we'll move into our policy discussion, which will, if you all will recall, sometime when we made the decision to increase the rates for our solid waste and yard waste fees, we discussed that we would bring before you, we would, one, have a RFP, request for proposal on glass recycling. We've now had that RFP process. We had one responded to the RFP process. And so Mr. John Honeywell will kind of talk through that process and just kind of the lay of the land. Ultimately, it'll be the board's decision to decide to create a resolution based on what staff shares today and then move forward. Again, we all know it's our desire to be a forward-thinking, sustainability-driven city as we move forward.
Thank you, Mayor. Board members, Bruce, as the mayor said, we underwent a process requesting proposals to provide curbside glass recycling for residential customers in the city of Little Rock. It's the parameters of that request had the recycling operating the same way all of our other recycling occurs. It's once every 2 weeks. Picked up curbside at each residential customer. We had one respondent for that proposal, and that respondent was Ace Glass, a local company here in Little Rock. And as you can see up here on the screen, and I believe the mayor's handing out copies of it for y'all, we did a breakdown of where our rates have been, starting our overall solid waste rate. You can see how that's changed from 2004 to 13 to 2020. 2020 being what it's actually going to be starting January of this coming year. Included in those numbers are the costs for residential recycling. So the $1.79, $2.82, and $4.29 are actually, those numbers are included in the first column. So the $28.90 that residents will be paying on January 1, 2020 includes that $4.29 cost for residential recycling. What this proposal will be is a cost on top of that. So the bid, you can't, oh, I'm sorry. I wasn't sure. The proposed bid or proposal for services for glass recycling alone is $3.39 per household per month. So the total monthly bill for residential customers would be $32.29. The proposal was reviewed through our process. It was found to meet all of our criteria. That's why we're bringing it before y'all tonight to inform y'all of what the actual cost will be for residential customers. One of the things I do want to note, in 2018, our contract for residential recycling was going to expire. We negotiated an extension to that contract with Waste Management. As part of those negotiations, glass was removed from the contract. So the price increase you see there from $2.82 to $4.29 reflected those negotiated costs, less glass. Those extensions will end in April of 2021. So we will be going back out either as a city or as regionally with our solid waste district to have a new proposal for recycling overall in the city. So there is the opportunity in 2021 to have glass be considered in an overall recycling program and not as a separate contract for the city. So that option is out there, and it's something that can be considered if this particular proposal is not accepted by the city. So at that, I'll take any questions that y'all have or anything else I can clarify for you.
Director Wright.
Thank you. If we're going out in 2021, why are we bringing this forward now?
We were asked to go out and ask for a proposal to what it would cost to have glass recycling back in the city. That's why we've done this process.
I'm getting feedback from a lot of people who, of course, are upset that we have had to increase their solid waste rates, and then to add this on top of it, it just seems like it's a bit much for people who say they're on fixed incomes and that kind of thing, and you know, you're taking a hit now instead of letting this thing play itself out and let people get comfortable with what we're going to increase to.
Yes, ma'am. And we understand that. We wanted to understand what the competitive cost for providing a glass recycling service would be just on its own. That being said, that's why we're bringing it to you to let the decision be made overall of whether or not you want to pursue this particular proposal or if you'd like to do something different.
Okay, thank you.
Director Adcock.
I think we probably, all of us got emails today from some people about this. I think they said they was paying $10 a month and they want it reduced. I found it strange that most of these people all live in the same zip code as the same area of Little Rock, and they're not in Southwest Little Rock or lots in the Midtown area. $3.39, some people just cannot afford this. And we want to be a progressive city and everything, Mayor, but we want to be sensitive also to the people in our city, the people who live on a fixed income or a small amount. Some people don't realize that widow ladies, lots of them receive $500 a month, and some, if they're really receiving money, they get $700 a month. And, you know, although $3.39 may not seem like much, you know, that's a gallon of milk and a loaf of bread probably. And to me, I think that we need to be a sensitive city as well as a progressive city. Thank you.
And Director Adcock, I do not disagree with you, and just want to remind you that this board asked for that RFQ process.
I know we did, but if we're going to have one in 2021, that will take effect then in 2021, or will it take effect in 2021?
In April of 2021 is when, well, March 31st of 2021 is the current contract expires.
And it may have glass involved in with it
Potentially, for a cost.
for a cost.
Yes, ma'am.
And so there again, people paying this cost now, and this contract is for 1 year?
This year, this proposal is a 2-year contract with, I believe it's 3 1-year extensions.
Okay, so
It could be up to
basically,
5 years, basically.
18 months, we will be paying for glass, maybe for 2 different companies.
No, ma'am. If this proposal was approved and then we redo the existing recycling contract, either one, you could not include glass in the renewal of the other contract, or after 2 years, you could end this contract and just have one contract that had glass and all other recycling included.
Now, when we go out in 2021, is it also going to be Pulaski County? Like right now, we're connected with Pulaski County.
Yes, ma'am. We're connected with North Little Rock, Sherwood, and the city of Little Rock are under one contract, and then Pulaski County actually has their own contract for their
Okay, so we're
recycling.
with North Little Rock, Sherwood, and
And that would be, it hasn't been determined at this time, but that's something that we're discussing of whether or not there would be that partnership within the region, those cities within the region, or if the city would go out on its own. There is some savings in terms of the volume, total number of customers you have, so that's reflected in that, and that's a decision we'll have to make.
well, I'm like Director Wright. I've got all kinds of phone calls about this increase.
Yes, ma'am.
And I would rather see us just drop the glass for right now, let people get used to this increase, and then in 2021, we'll see what we have to do. Thank you.
And again, board members, I want to remind everyone that this board asked for our department to go out for this bid. And so our role is to, decide if there needs to be a resolution to accept it or not have a resolution. And so I just want, I want to be sensitive to Director Honeywell. He's just reporting back what he was asked to do. So let's all be cognizant of that. Director Webb?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. If we want to see a resolution on an upcoming agenda for a vote, and we would like to see it at that reconvened meeting, which will give us more opportunity to discuss the pros and cons of this, do we just need to ask Tom to draft such a resolution?
Yes, ma'am. I believe the process is that, Tom, matter of fact, Tom, could you share the process, remind the board members of that process? I know sometimes it can be a bit convoluted.
If a board member wants a resolution that's not presented 2 weeks before the meeting at which it would be first discussed, then it takes a supermajority vote to get it added to the agenda. If y'all are to meet next week and you would have to present the resolution today, and if you do one between now and then to have it on the meeting agenda for the 19th recess meeting would take a supermajority vote of the board.
Okay, so the only way we could get it on there in the regular manner would be if we wrote a resolution right now and handed it. No, there's no way to do that, right?
Is it a possible way, Tom, to do a voice resolution, since this is more of a simple one?
No, the resolutions have certain statutory requirements and need to be in them, so you really need to have it in writing.
So what I'll do, because I do know there are members of the board that would like to see a resolution but may be out of town on the next board meeting, if you would prepare a resolution on behalf of the city board, and if I need to author it, I'll author it, because I know that's what some board members want to make sure it's on there, or staff can do it. However we want to do it, we'll have it for the 19th.
Thank you. And I have a follow-up question to Director Honeywell, if I may. We got the new contract with Waste Management. We lost glass. We lost the cartons that milk comes in. We lost some other types of plastic. And as somebody who tries to be very diligent with my recycling, I continue to be confused over what I can put in my bin and what I can't put in my bin.
Okay.
I guess when we have the resolution, we'll have ample time to discuss this further. But my one question for you is, if they cut glass out in last time, what would lead us to believe that we're going to get it back in 2021?
I think part of that is, what do we put out as an RFP for what items do we want included in our recycling? Part of the reason some of the items were removed is because we had to renegotiate an extension to a contract that was expiring. So when we go out for an RFP, either the city or as a solid waste group, we can write the parameters of what we want to be considered for recycling.
And then there'd
And
be,
they bid on that, and that cost may reflect something that's either difficult or hard to repurpose once it's been recycled or turned into them. Their bid may reflect their difficulties in making that product a commodity that they can sell. However, that's just what we'll have to see what comes back at that point in time. The markets may be completely different in a year and a half.
thank you for working on this and for bringing it tonight, and thank you to Courtney and others who have brought this in at a number that was a lot lower than I expected and that a lot of my constituents had expected. So understanding it is a lot for some folks.
Director Peck?
Thank you, Mayor. Thanks, John. 'Cause seeing that ACE was the only person to bid on this time, the only company, is that going to change in 2021?
I believe it will, yes, because it's going to be recycling across. That bid is going to be recycling across the board. It's plastics, paper, some of the other items that are recycling now that we're doing now that we're not doing glass. That's what will be going back out. So
Were you surprised that there were no other bids on this? I mean, I sort of was. I'm also delighted that it was 339. I thought it was going to be a lot more.
maybe a little surprised there wasn't anyone else that was interested. But it's once again, it's a commodity that's difficult to handle once you have it, as far as an end product that you're going to use it for. At least here in our region, it typically has to be moved outside of the region to be repurposed.
And Joan, like we all have received a lot of emails, but just from my perspective, this is something that's really important to me, not just because it makes a statement that we are being a more progressive city, but I'm being very active on the Sustainability Commission. I'm looking at Susan Altrui and her efforts at the zoo, and I think this is what people that are moving here want to see, young people who are focused on conservation or focused on the environment. I just think it'd be a big step backwards if we don't embrace this. I know that we have a bin at my restaurant. I think that we probably fill it with half restaurant glass and other people drop off theirs. I drive by Edwards every day, and I think they're picking up 3 or 4 times a week. I think there's 600 subscribers now. I think people really, for the most part, want to be able to recycle their glass. I'm astonished that ACE can even keep up with it at this point in time. I know this is going to create jobs. It's going to have an impact in wages of almost $1 million. I mean, I think there's so many win-win benefits. I just applaud ACE, Courtney and Bob, and for these people working on this, and the members of the Sustainability Commission here. And I am sensitive to the fact that there are a lot of people on a fixed income that this is going to be somewhat of a hardship. But in the grand scheme of things, I mean, this has, I think, huge impact for economic development. We don't want to continue to lose people to Northwest Arkansas, young families who just think, oh, glass recycling, that's a given. I feel very strongly about this. I appreciate everybody's work on it. And I don't think it's just one zip code. I have a lot of friends who live in Ward 1 who recycle their glass, in Wards 2, 5, pretty much across the city. It might look a little bit lopsided, but I think, I don't know where the collection points are. Maybe you could tell us that, but I think they're throughout the city. Is that correct, your collection sites?
Yes, they have locations throughout the city, and I believe it's all located on their website as far as what those current locations are.
And I've seen some of those presentations, and I think that the people at ACE would be the first to say that you all are really surprised at how much glass you're picking up. How many tons have you picked up so far?
1,000 tons. So
1,000 tons of glass.
4 times what we were doing annually, we've done in 6 months.
I know we're not going to be unanimous here, but I hope we do this. Thanks, John.
You're welcome.
Director Hines.
Thanks. John, it was my understanding, like you said, that this would be a 2-year contract. So if at the end of the 2 years we decide that it's not the direction we want to go or it's not effective, we can cancel the contract, correct?
Yeah, that would be the end of the contract.
And I'm, like I say, I know when we started down this path, I got a lot of calls when we removed the glass recycling from my constituents that wanted it. But I think a lot of them at $9 a month or $10 a month, which is what it was to get it independently, it was a little high for most. But $339 a month seems reasonable to give it a try. I have a question. So Ace Glass is a Little Rock company, right? And
Yes,
it's
sir.
my understanding that they're basically doing this as a startup, so they'll be hiring folks, and so this money that we're paying towards our fees is actually going back into our local economy, correct?
Yes, sir. That was part of their proposal, is to create. They will have to go out and hire, obtain equipment, et cetera, to go each house and pick up. So you're going to have people that are doing collections and also people that are processing.
Whereas Waste Management and these other companies that we've been contracting with are not Little Rock operated companies, and those profits funnel back to a corporate entity outside the state.
That's true.
All right, thank you. That's all I needed.
Any more questions for Mr. Honeywell? Mr. Honeywell, you may be excused.
Thank you.
Not be here, that she has a flat tire that she's trying to get taken care of right now. And she didn't know if she would be able to make the end of the meeting or not.
Thank you so much, Director Adcock. Before we adjourn, again, just want to share with everyone, the plan is to, again, discuss the budget on the November 19th meeting. We do know there will be some members that won't be able to attend. We'll then recess that meeting to take up the budget on the 26th. So it gives ample time. Please continue, if you have questions, to direct those questions to myself, Sarah Linehan, or Bruce, and we'll be as responsive as possible. We believe we've gotten many of your questions answered and want to continue to stand ready to be responsive. And secondly, Tom, you'll have the resolution ready for the 19th. And then I guess just from a process-wise, that resolution needs to be supermajority.
Well, Mayor, the way that the ordinance is written, because it was written a few years ago, the manager can direct that it be put on the agenda. It doesn't say the mayor, it says the manager, but I kind of figured that if you said you were going to have it done, that Bruce is going to say, yeah, we'll put it on the agenda. So that's why, and then that wouldn't take any vote.
Thank you for understanding that. So it'll be on the agenda, everyone, and then we'll vote on it on the 26th. All right, no other questions. I want everybody to pay attention. It's 4:28. We're back on schedule.